What is your promise? Why are you in business? How do you expect to grow?
This is The Hook, a show focused on branding, marketing, and business development.
You brand to inspire, not to sell.
Jason Arsmont, the marketing maverick, gives expertise to business owners, serial entrepreneurs, and anyone interested in building a stronger company brand.
Creating a brand is like telling a story. You've got one shot to say it all.
When your marketing works, you've got them on the hook.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us on a Saturday afternoon on iHeartRadio. My name is Josh, and I'm with Brightbox. And I have a problem because I'm here doing a marketing show on a Saturday afternoon. What are we doing here, Jason?
Living the dream, man. This is it. This is where we want to be, right?
I guess it is living the dream, right?
No, this is cool, man. This is our opportunity each week to give back to our listeners, help educate you guys on marketing and business strategy. This is something we're committed to. This is something we love. So it doesn't feel like much of a chore for me, but...
Well, you know what? It's not a chore. I'm just thinking that we could be outside, but this is a dedication we have to Brightbox Brand Marketing and the Hook Radio Show, is that we are here on a Saturday afternoon hanging out.
That's it.
And glad to be here. That's Jason Arsmont. He is the marketing maverick and also the CEO of about, 70 or 80 different companies. Or it feels that way at least.
It does, especially last week, man. It was busy.
And I am fortunate enough to be a marketing strategist with Brightbox. So we got so much that's going to happen and really kicking off this month, kicking off this year. We've done it in spectacular fashion so far.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you kind of think of the show. I mean, it was kind of a New Year's resolution. I know we started last year, but, I mean, here we are at the end of the month. We're still here, Josh. How many people have already given up on their resolutions?
And how many people have already been let go? Like I should have.
Well.
No, that's not what we're talking about. Okay, never mind. We won't get into that.
Oh, my
But yeah,
gosh.
a lot of people do give up. What happens is in December, you give up on everything you do because it's the holidays.
Yeah.
Which is the wrong thing. That's the wrong way
Yeah.
to look at it.
Yeah.
And we mentioned that I don't know how many times. You can go back and listen to the podcast on thehookradio.com, set it over and over and over. And then you get into January and you're a step and a half behind everybody else. So
Yeah, even when you plan really well, right? It's funny. We're talking about resolutions here, and we're talking about how most people don't follow through on them. And I was doing a speaking engagement last week, and the topic came up, which I usually talk about quite a bit, is how you can define your quit. And somebody asked, like, well, what does that really mean? And, when I talk about defining your quit, I mean before you get into doing something, write down, like physically write down or type out on the computer what it is that's going to make you stop. And you'll realize that usually when you write that out is some pretty aggressive things. Like for me, when I was running across Texas, my quit was being hauled away in an ambulance. Like I wasn't going to stop unless I was hauled away in an ambulance. And I knew that. My team knew that. It helped push us through some really hard times when I rolled my ankle and, when spirits were down.
That's easy for you to say whenever I ran across Texas, but let's get more in depth in that because maybe you don't understand what he's talking about whenever he says run across Texas and the adversity that came up in that run. What did you do?
Yeah. So a group came to me and educated me about this horrible problem of child sex trafficking, how Houston is the national hub and I-10 is like a major corridor. And immediately I just wanted to get involved and do something. And I decided the best way to do that was to use our marketing prowess and our ability to kind of do a PR stunt and my passion for running, physically running, like doing marathons. And so I decided I would do something that I called the Texas Freedom Run. I would run from El Paso to Orange. That's New Mexico to Louisiana. I'd run down I-10, 30 marathons in 30 days, cover the entire state, all along the way stopping and talking to schools and churches and educating people on this horrible problem and raising money to help fight against child sex trafficking. So this was an unbelievable challenge physically, to say the least. And, there were several times during that month of running that, day 5, I rolled my ankle. It was swole up like a grapefruit and, just was limping along. But again, I defined that quit early on before I ever even started. Defined it with myself and with the team. So we knew, rolled ankle or not, unless there was an ambulance there, Jason was going to get up the next morning. He was going to get to the start line, and he was going to limp off that first mile if he had to, just to shake it out. And I did. I had to do that for several days. Starting the Brightbox back in the day when we first launched a marketing firm, I literally only put $1,000 into an account because that's all I had. And I had to make that company work, and I defined my quit as, losing my house and not being able to feed my kids. I was not going to go back to work for somebody until I got all the way down to that rock bottom. And you know what? It never happened. Another good example, my son was wanting to, he wrestles in high school, and, he's tells me before this year, like, man, I'm not really looking forward to it. It's so tough. It's a grueling pace that the coaches put us through as far as the training and the exercises. And I said, okay, well, look, I'll let you quit as long as right now, before the season starts, you and I sit down and we write out what it would take to make you quit. Like, what's the worst thing you could think of? Like, what, you have to do 300 push-ups in one day? Okay, well, let's write that down. If you have to do 300 push-ups in one day, then you can quit, and I'll still be proud of you. But somehow you have to predetermine what your quit's going to be, because you're going to get a number of reasons to make an excuse to stop what it is you want to do, whether it's a resolution, a company, or running, or doing anything. So it was just kind of interesting, talking about it at that event. It was something I hadn't talked about in a long time, and it's always a good reminder to me and to your resolution. So if you guys are sitting there and you're thinking about some things that maybe you've already given up on, get your butt back in gear, man. Get back on that resolution, get back on your goals, and start thinking about what is it really that's going to make me quit, so that no matter what else happens, you do not stop. You have that perseverance.
There are easy things that make you quit, though. If you think about smokers, and whenever they're trying to quit smoking, why do they quit caring whether they are off cigarettes or not? What is it? Is it stress related? If they actually did that, if they actually wrote down what it would make for them to go back to smoking after giving up, what would that be?
Yeah.
It's very easy thing sometimes.
And maybe just acknowledging it would allow them to identify that, hey, this is taking place. Look out.
It's the same thing as in losing weight. I feel like whenever you you make yourself accountable and you write something down, it makes a whole lot bigger difference. And Weight Watchers, no matter what you say about the company as a whole and the way that they are as a business, the accountability that they have thrown into the way the program works and people lose weight, it really makes a difference. Because whenever you can see what you had on a meal-by-meal basis and you know what you're left with at the end of the day, it's the accountability that's right there.
Yeah. It's so funny, the power of the written word. And that's a great little segue here into who our guest is this week. We have Kevin Tomlinson. He is I don't know, I'm not exactly sure how to describe him. Well, I'm curious to see how he describes himself, because I know he does a lot of things. I would call him a serial author.
Okay.
He's a powerful writer. He's also a marketer. He's written several books. He helps train other people how to write books efficiently. And so, if you're listening to this show and you're like, man, I've always had this idea of a book that I wanted to write, Kevin's going to break down how you can get that first book done quicker than you probably ever thought possible, and easier. I haven't personally used him, but I've gone through his work and talked with him several times, and I'm a big fan of what he's doing, and I think this is a great topic for the show, because writing content can make you an authority on a topic. We've had great success with The Brand Map, a book that I wrote last year that helps people position and their brand within the marketplace, and how to identify certain attributes and what your brand should look like, what it should sound like, all these key elements. And I wrote a whole book on it, and we've been able to hand that book out and sell some. And it's really just helped kind of solidify my position as a market leader within the branding, the branding market space. And so Kevin's going to talk with us a little bit about that. I think it's going to be really good. You're going to want to stay tuned for that. We've also got, in our next segment, we're going to talk about CX. You know what CX is, Josh?
That's something that I just found out about this week.
It's not X-Files.
No, and it's not. I do drive a Mazda CX-7, but that's
right.
not the same thing.
It's different. Yeah, so we're gonna unravel what CX is in terms of marketing. We'll hold on to that a bit, and on the next segment we'll dig into it. But yeah, so here we are at the end of the month. You guys stay focused on those resolutions. If you've already given up, I want you to go back. Pick that resolution back up. You can start now. Say, we're going to hit this until May. We're going to define what it is that's going to make us quit, and we're going to get back on track. And if you have any questions, or you need help, or you need some extra motivation, or you've got a barrier in your way, you guys go to thehookradio.com. We've got a ton of information on there. I'm trying to update it with videos. We've got all the podcasts of this show are up there, as well as some training material and direction. My whole story's up there. Our books are up there for you guys to get. So I really encourage you guys to go to the website, shoot me an email. I love getting your emails. I answer all of them personally. And we're going to be right there with you guys to continue to make this year a success.
And this segment, I don't know if I don't think we mentioned this. It's brought to you by Brightbox Brand Marketing. You know much about that?
They're a great marketing firm here in Houston, Texas that I started about 8 years ago. So check them out at brightboxonline.com.
We got brand new case studies up.
That's
have
right.
new videos up.
Whole website you guys did.
The website is it's looking good. I have to admit that.
Yeah, you guys did a heck of a job on that.
Yeah, whenever you say you guys, you mean them because
they designed and built it, but you're on that internal strategy team for sure. And but definitely it's BRIGHT, brightboxonline.com for all your branding, marketing, content writing, social media, video production. Oh gosh, I'm tired already. Yeah. A ton of stuff. Anything marketing related, go check them out. It's a great place to start.
If you want to be friends with us on Facebook, I mean, we could do that, We can like be friends. We can hang out.
Maybe LinkedIn.
All right, we'll talk about CX and what it means. That's coming up next. It's Jason Arsenault, the Marketing Maverick. My name is Josh with Brightbox. Coming back on the hook.
Now, Daddy didn't like trouble, but if it came along.
Thanks for hanging out this afternoon. You are listening to The Hook. My name is Josh, along with Jason Arsenault, the Marketing Maverick, and the guy that controls everything marketing in Houston. Can we start saying that?
I like that. That sounds even better.
I mean, we have to push it like you are the only voice of marketing in all of Houston.
I like it. Then we'll go nationwide, baby.
That sounds good to me. Now, we've been talking about this CX, customer experience, and you have more of a grasp on it from earlier this week whenever you did a little bit of a talk about this with AMA.
Yeah, I was invited to come out to the AMA Houston's, I guess they do a CX 2016. Every year they do a CX, client experience event.
And AMA, by the way, let's say what AMA stands for.
American Marketing Association. Okay. They have a Houston chapter, which is the largest in the nation. So if you're not familiar with them, go check them out at amahouston.org. They're a great group to get involved with, meet other marketing professionals, advertising professionals, as well as potentially some clients. There's a wide range of people in that organization. There's all types of different types of groups and SIGs, special interest groups, to get involved in. So I'd gotten a call from them anyways to come talk with them, come speak this year at their CX 2016 event, and the theme was Amaze Me. And, to be completely honest, customer experience is something that really is really powerful to us. It's really important. I hadn't really been on the buzz of CX. It wasn't until after they invited me to come talk, I jump online and I realized how many conversations and articles and YouTube videos are everyone's trying to dissect CX and, client experience. What is it? How to have a better customer experience or client experience? And you'll hear it described as, CX is the interaction with clients. It's what they take away from their experience with you. It could be, an online interface also. You see a lot of that maybe in that circumstance. It's called UX, user interface, but user experience. But the online experience, customer service, pricing, any of your unique attributes, how to treat your kindness of your clients, everything. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. And I looked at all these things online and I'm just like, well, man, there's something that kind of seems missing. For me, all of those things should just be like business practices that you're always trying to get better at. But there was kind of this thing that I saw, a pattern within my business from when I first started Brightbox, and I would go out and I'd make 120, 170 cold calls a day trying to drum up business. And I would share with them my story and my passion and how I was the owner of the company. And all I wanted to do was help them be successful and, make them a rock star. And that led into success. It led into doing over $1 million my first year with, an average sale of $7,500. I mean, that was a lot of business. It was a lot of hustling. And, then I saw it when I went and started the exhibit company and the print shop. Employees started responding to this attitude, this culture that I was trying to implement of high energy, passion oriented. And I saw that, people were kind of standing in line to want to come work with us. And so we had our pick of the best talent pool in our area. And so we brought on some amazing team members, which led to getting even more clients and more business. And then, kind of like the ultimate compliment to our culture was when Shadowbox, who's actually a sponsor of this radio show, shadowboxtalent.com. You can go check them out, full service HR outsourcing group. Gary was a client of mine, the founder, my partner in that company. Gary was a client of mine working for a large staffing recruiting firm here in Houston, a $100 million organization. And Gary was a C-level guy with this group, an executive. And it called me up and said one day, hey, man, look, I'm interested in starting my own firm. I've been thinking about it for some time. I love what you guys are doing with your kind of series of box companies. I love the culture. I love how aggressive you guys are. Would you be interested in partnering with me and going into a staffing firm? And I mean, there's just no better compliment than that to me. Somebody at that level working at a company of that size, recognizing the culture as a client, not just somebody that heard me at a speaking gig or, read my personal bio, but this is a client that I was selling work to that saw the value of our internal brand, our internal culture. And I guess that kind of leads into what I feel was our unique CX, our unique customer experience was our passion for what we were doing and how we were able to inspire people, right? Because there's only two ways to really inspire people. And we know that inspiration leads to action. And the only other form of action usually comes from fear. So I can either scare somebody into moving or taking action towards me, or the best way of getting them to take action towards me is inspiring them. And you could do that through two different ways. You can inspire people in two different ways to get the response that you want. And first, you can do it by your own actions. The actions you do, even outside of your work, your day-to-day correspondence with clients, that action outside of the office can inspire people and move them closer to you to want to engage and learn more about what it is you guys do. And that's kind of that magic touch. There's something about that group over there comparing, proposal to proposal. Proposal A is kind of boring. They don't do a lot of talking about what they do outside and their passions. And Proposal B is a highly, passionate group, and they've got all kinds of special interests, and they help, and they're philanthropic, and, all these different things. You can only imagine which group they're going to want to spend more time with. And so that's one form of inspiring the customers is through your actions outside of work. The other is through being passionate about their success. And this is where I think most of my success came from, is that I am a diehard a fan of my clients. I want them to be more successful than I want myself to be successful. I don't care if I'm selling a business card or a brochure or a website or a full marketing program. I want that business card to be a career changer in a positive way. I want the marketing director to get a pat on the back, to get a promotion, to get an advancement, to get opportunity for growth. And I talk openly about that with my clients, that I want them to be successful, and I am willing to do whatever it takes within the realm of what we're hired for to make that happen. And I think that's led to some amazing, CX experiences with our clients. And I think that's why we do a lot of business, and that's why we retain a lot of business. And even clients that leave come back because we always keep that door open, and we're always open and we're positive about their growth and their success. And so keep that in mind as you guys evaluate your marketing program, as you're looking for what makes you unique. Understand that sometimes what you're selling just isn't going to be sexy. I get it. Well, you know what? You can still be sexy. What you do outside of the office. We have employees now who are doing incredible things. They're writing books. They're taking boxing lessons. They're doing improv comedy. They're starting their own magazine. They're going on crazy vacations. They're doing all kinds of things to make themselves more interesting and really just live a fuller life. And that translates down into the communication relationship that you end up having with your clients. So think about that as you go through your work week. Next week, look at opportunities that you can create more memorable CX experiences. I also want to talk too, because I think a lot of people, it's kind of hard to gauge, but those that I talk to, if you're listening to us via radio, I want you guys to go check out the iHeartRadio app. Is that right? That's right,
yeah.
Josh. Yeah.
iHeartRadio.
The iHeartRadio app. It's a radio in your back pocket, right? It's in your phone. You can get any radio station you want. Hopefully a lot of you guys are listening to us that way, because sometimes our show does get bumped. If there's college sports or something like that, until we can get the show over to 740.
Right?
Rob?
Let's put that plug in.
Till we can get over to 740, things like that may come up. The show may get bumped. So I want you guys to be familiar with iHeartRadio app. Download that sucker. You can get us on time every time, 4 o'clock Central. Here on KPRC 950.
And we talk about branding. Boy, they did a great job of branding whenever they came up with iHeart, because iHeartRadio was the first thing. It was a chance for you to listen to any radio station anytime, anywhere. I started in radio in Lake Charles, I think 21 years ago. Okay. So you could listen one way. the only way was through the radio.
Right.
And then websites came around years later. So this is another avenue to figure out what a radio station is and what it stood for. And then having a chance to listen to your favorite radio personalities and your shows and what's happening in your town somewhere else. There's a lot of times that whenever I fill in for someone on the Buzz or whenever I'm doing my radio show in Dallas, that I'll put something out on Facebook promoting that I'm going to be on in this different city, and my family members or friends, they can listen no matter where they are. And I'll have 30 or 40 people that are friends of mine listening to my radio shows from other cities.
Yeah.
Which is great for me. And it kind of gives a little bump up on the analytics of the radio station.
And I know some of you guys are. I get emails. I get stuff from folks that are out of state. So I know some of you are on iHeart on the app. And so I'm just encouraging the rest of you guys to get out there and do that. We've got a great segment coming up. We've got Kevin Tomlinson, a serial content developer. He's an author. He's got a great book coming out. Not coming out. It's already out. 30-Day Author. You can go on Amazon, check him out. Kevin Tomlinson coming up in our next segment. I think you guys are going to love it.
All right, that's Jason Arsmont. We're coming up next with Kevin as our guest on The Hook. Welcome back to The Hook. My name is Josh with Brightbox, along with Jason Arsmont. That is the Marketing Maverick right here. TheHookRadio.com is where you catch all the past episodes and also get on our mailing list because we love that. We send out e-blast every week telling you what's going on, what's happening, what you're going to be listening to, what you listened to last week maybe. And so that's always a good place to catch us. And we always have a guest on with us that Jason, well, you know everybody.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I know everybody,
Pretty
but
close.
I do know a lot of great people who bring a lot of great content to the table and to this show for you guys as listeners. So today our guest is, probably, we'll see how Kevin describes himself, but I kind of consider him to be like a master of content. I know I kind of say he's a serial author. He's a marketing guy. He's a huge advocate of reading in general. I mean, he's just a great all-around guy. He's doing some really cool stuff. And so, Kevin, that's probably a horrible intro, but, man, thanks so much for coming on the show. Kevin Tomlinson.
No problem. Thanks for having me. And I describe myself as ruggedly handsome and stunningly intelligent.
Well, I introed you that whenever we first spoke on the phone. But nice.
Yeah,
well, hey, man,
me,
I guess give the listeners a little background on you and what you do maybe on a day-to-day basis professionally.
All right. For the most part, what I do these days is write a lot of books, and that takes up the biggest chunk of my time. But I spent a career as a copywriter, as a journalist, as various. Think of something that involves writing, and I pretty much did that for a living for most of my life. And these days, it's really all about churning out books and helping other people do the same.
Wow.
I have my podcasts and. Those are all geared towards helping independent authors, and I'm kind of loving life.
Yeah. And for those of you wanting to check out more about Kevin, it's kevintomlinson.com. Is that the best one, Kevin?
KevinTomlinson.com, yes, that's the best one. Pretty much if you do a search for me online, you're going to come across 1,000 different things that should pique some interest.
That link back to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you've got a
exactly.
background in marketing, right? Or is that really just from a content standpoint you've been involved on the marketing side of business?
Actually, I spent quite a bit of my career working in marketing, and largely from the content side, admittedly. I mean, I started my professional life more or less as a copywriter. I've actually been writing for money since I was 12 years old, so I've been doing this for a little while.
Man, like hustler, content hustler over here.
Yeah, it's been an interesting career, and it's had its spikes and its valleys, I guess. But yeah, for the most part, copywriting was kind of the through line of most of my career, and that's led me into a career in marketing and helping other people kind of brand themselves and market their work. So I got quite an education in that, just from experience.
Well, I love stories kind of early on in people's profession. I hadn't gotten one that dated back to 12 years old. You're going to have to share that with us. So what was that all about,
further.
man? That's pretty cool.
It goes even further. I always tell people I wrote my first book when I was 5 years old. So.
Oh, man. I feel so like underachieved here. Like,
yeah, well, that's kind of a cheat. I mean, it was like 5 pages of notebook paper, so it wasn't anything to write home about. But yeah, at 12 years old, I actually was writing for the local papers in my area, and I was doing sort of a teen beat kind of thing. So I would I would go cover football games and events and, anything that had a team spin to it. And I would write a very short column each week and got a few bucks. I think I maybe made like $10 per column. So I wasn't exactly putting back college money.
That's really cool, though, man. That's awesome. For 12
Yeah, it
years
was a
old,
good
man.
Yeah. Good.
That's awesome.
Money at 12, anyway.
Well, yeah, I think it's more of like what it meant more than what it was,
Right, exactly. Yeah. It wasn't enough for me to even have to pay taxes on it, though, so I didn't learn all the really important lessons until later.
Well, you didn't think that until now. You're live on the air, so you may be getting audited soon. 30 years ago, whatever it is. Oh, man. So I guess early on in your career, you were a journalist, you were doing writing. Have you always been on your own, or were you with other groups, or have you always kind of been a freelance writer that contributed to other publications and columns and things?
I think the largest chunk of my career I've been freelance, but I've worked with agencies in the advertising and marketing world. For a time, I was a creative director for a very large software company here. I worked with ExxonMobil. I did quite a few jobs that were not freelance. I've worked freelance and contractor for a lot of people, and not really. I haven't been employed much, we'll say, most of my career, and I kind of like it that way.
Yeah, are you one of these guys who are kind of like unemployable, or do you just like the flexibility?
At this point, I kind of consider myself almost unemployable. I mean, I could go take a job if I really had to, and I've been asked, and occasionally, and I sometimes enjoy going and doing work with a company for a while. But yeah, I kind of enjoy having the flexibility of a freelance lifestyle, and I've just always done it. I've structured my life that way. So.
Yeah. What have you found to be the most successful element to you professionally that has allowed you to stay, self-employed for the most part? I mean, do you attribute that to anything in particular? Because I think a lot of listeners are probably going, man, Jason's always talking about starting companies, and all his guests come on, and they're just doing their own thing all the time. Like,
right.
What do you attribute yours to?
I think the ability to pivot was the biggest thing. I mean, the ability to adapt and do something new. Because for a time, I actually, I have a background in radio and television as well. So I mean, I was working as associate producer for a time, and then executive producer for a PBS television series. And, we were doing that. That was more or less contract. But as things kind of, started to fade, I started a small video production company off of that. And things kind of went south because, the technology that I was paying, a few $100,000 for was now available for, $3,000 for a camera and another $3,000 for a laptop, and any high school kid could take my place. So the bottom sort of fell out.
Any 12-year-old maybe, huh?
Exactly. Yeah, 12-year-olds all over have reason to rejoice.
Yeah.
And at that point, it could have gone either way. I mean, I could have bombed and had to go take a job as a greeter or something at a not to be named grocery store chain, or I could pick myself up and build something out of what I had, and I turned it back to writing. I mean, writing was always that through line to my career, so that having the ability to communicate and express myself has probably been the biggest asset to my career.
Yeah, absolutely, which obviously makes you a great content person as well. A great
exactly
writer.
Right. Yeah,
you're able to communicate
people give me money for it, so I can't really complain.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know I want to get to some more writing specific stuff, but you kind of lead an interesting lifestyle too. Kind of this mobile lifestyle, so to speak. Yes. Speak to that a little bit. I think our listeners will get a kick out of what quest you're on right now. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm starting to refer to it as the portable life.
Portable life, okay.
Which I'm building something around that brand, so nobody steal that.
We coined it here. Don't worry.
So yeah, one of the things that happened fairly recently, my wife and I kind of decided we would sell our home. We would start building toward a more mobile lifestyle, and so we're in the process of downsizing. We bought a small RV for now, but the goal is within the next year to 2 years. We plan to get on the road full time in an RV while I write.
Wow.
And so it's been, I'm documenting all this because it's been such an interesting journey, because there's a difference between having flexibility as a freelancer and being able to go work for Starbucks or, anywhere you like. And this sort of, my office and my home are anywhere we happen to be.
Right.
So
Man.
there's been some adjustment, but it's so interesting interesting to see, people love this idea. It really resonates with people. And I'm getting people coming out of the woodwork, asking me questions, making suggestions. So this whole portable life idea is evolving into something much bigger than I had originally anticipated.
Yeah. It's almost like I can imagine it being extremely liberating. I mean, I know when I did the Texas Freedom Run, we talked about it earlier in the show, when I ran across Texas and I spent 30 days living out of a truck, and I didn't have much. And, what I found is, like, by the end of that month, I felt really good not having to worry about keeping up with all that stuff, having to pay for it, having to, all the kind of responsibility and pressure that come, the status and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, man, then I heard about your story. I was like, oh man, I think he's figured it out. Like,
yeah, it's really interesting how freeing it is to downsize what you own. We still own too much stuff. I mean, I'm not gonna say we've reached the top of the mountain just yet, but we're going through things pretty regularly, and we're kind of doing it between shorter trips now. Like we're about to take a trip here at the end of January. Actually, we leave Friday afternoon, and we're going to drive to Florida. We're going to spend a couple of weeks just kind of testing out the camper and trying out the lifestyle and getting used to it. But what's been interesting is that idea of we don't need all these things in order to have a life. Like our life isn't tied to our possessions. We're actually able to kind of get out there and experience something entirely new, and it's been liberating. I mean, I feel lighter.
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
Yeah.
We're talking with Kevin Tomlinson. If you're just tuning in, he is a content developer. He's I still consider him to be a marketing guy. He's an author. He's also this portable lifestyle we're talking about. I find it really interesting too, because I guess what you have to do is you kind of maybe you trial and error it a little bit. I mean, did you guys do like a couple weeks at a time and say, okay, this wasn't so bad?
Right.
And then see how much you think you really could pull it off?
Yeah, originally the plan was sell the house, step into an RV, and start driving. And we kind of realized right away that we own too many things to be able to do that.
You got to slow go that one, huh?
So now it's become an examination of our lives and how we function, and it's fascinating actually. And I'll give you a great example because I run 3 different podcasts. I was running them all out of a studio that I had built with about $100,000 worth of equipment left over from TV and radio days,
Mm-hmm.
And I had a vital piece of equipment fail. And so, last minute I had to kind of cobble together an alternative. And, I had a couple of things just laying around, and I realized that I could now take this studio. It took up a lot of space in my home and it would cost a lot of money. And I could put it, in basically a shoulder bag that I could carry on an airplane with me.
That's cool.
And that changed absolutely everything. And it's been that kind of examination as we sort of, dip our toes in the water of this idea. We travel and we kind of figure out, this is what works for us and this is what doesn't. These are the types of environments we like and these we don't. And it's just, it is that sort of, a journey of discovery, to use a cliche. I mean, it's all about that. We're discovering ourselves in this process. It's really kind of fun.
Yeah. And what I love about it the most, and that I hope our listeners really hear, is we're talking about lifestyle and traveling and stuff. But guys, what this is building a business for your lifestyle. And I know if you've been listening to the show, you hear me talk about this all the time, that, you can't just, or don't anyways, just build a business for the sake of building a business to try to make money. Think about the end game in mind. Like, how do you want to live? What kind of lifestyle do you want to have? And look what Kevin's doing. I mean, he's going to be traveling around. A lot of us would say, man, that's dang near a vacation, That's just awesome. I love that kind of tenacity and, passion about exploring life. It's really, really neat.
Yeah, it's been, actually, I got that advice from you when we had our conversation on my show, which was, decide what the lifestyle is that you're trying to reach, and then go out and build for that lifestyle. That's exactly what we're trying to do.
I love it.
And we're succeeding too. I mean, and I'm not saying there are no bumps, because there are plenty of bumps. We occasionally, book sales are kind of an odd thing. Sometimes you'll have a really good month, and then the next time you may not. So book sales alone may not be enough to support the lifestyle we're after. it's definitely getting there. But
Sure.
there are other avenues of income that we have, and we're exploring some of those. And I've always been kind of the serial entrepreneur, so I'm building things that I believe are going to help support us. They are bringing in trickles of income. And
Right.
It's become about examining, like you say, it's about examining the lifestyle we want and what's going to get us there. And that actually helps narrow down a lot of our choices. And that in itself is very freeing. Like, I don't have to worry about, I don't know. I'm not going to go just chase a job just for the paycheck, because it's not going to get me where I'm wanting to go.
I mean, it's got to be an experience. You have to enjoy it. You got to love it.
Exactly.
I mean, hey, Josh, what about you, man? You think you could go mobile? Maybe not with your kids?
No. And the cats.
And the cats.
There's no way. It's not happening.
You heard Kevin. We got to cut things out. You're going to have to let go of those kids. You got to.
That's right, man.
Well,
we can be much happier.
Let's talk more about that dream. We're going to take a short break and come back from that, okay?
You got it.
All right, hang out, and we'll be right back after this. You're listening to The Hook.
On the road again. Just can't wait to get on the road again.
We're right back here on The Hook with Jason Arsmont and Josh with Brightbox. Got our guest on the line. We got more to get to. I mean, this is one of those guests that there's so much information that we have to do 2 or 3 shows.
It's like Shrek says. He's like an onion. It's got a lot of layers,
This is why I have 3 shows of my own, because I can't get it all crammed into like an hour or so.
Absolutely. We're listening. We're talking anyway with Kevin Tomlinson. That's Tumlison. So go check him out. You can Google him. And it's kevintomlinson.com. And I think he was saying if you search just about anything, he's going to come up. That'll lead back to his website where you guys can get in touch and find out a little bit more about him and his podcast.
There you go.
So, I know we're talking a lot about portable lifestyle, and like Josh was saying, man, there's just so much we could go into with you. But one of the things I really wanted to talk about, because I think it's a fascinating thing that I've tried implementing over the past couple of years myself, is writing content for the sake of kind of marketing or positioning yourself in the marketplace, and specifically doing that through books. And you're kind of the master of that. So I'd like to kind of get your take on where that originally came from, maybe your process for doing it, maybe just kind of kick us off with, how easy it may be to write your first book. I know a lot of people are intimidated.
Yeah, that is, and I know that that's an intimidating thing. And I do a little bit of author coaching, so I talk to entrepreneurs all the time about the prospect of using their existing content or generating new content and bundling everything into a book. And a lot of people get really intimidated by that process. So that's why I wrote. I don't know if I'm allowed to plug my book. I'm going to plug my book.
Get it. Yeah, get it.
I wrote 30-Day Author specifically for the entrepreneur that needs to develop that daily writing habit, needs to use a book as part of their marketing and branding. And
absolutely.
I tell people all the time that in fact, this is in the book, but it's a book is the ultimate business card. Because the thing is, we're hardwired as a culture to hold on and hold a certain reverence for books. So where we might collect a handful of business cards at an event and they end up round filed, a month later, that book is basically going to, so you hand some of the books and that book's going to sit there, it may not be read right away, but it's going to always be there reminding people.
That's a really good point. I think a lot of people think like if we write a book, well then I got to put it on Amazon, I got to promote it, I got to market it, and I guess kind of like differently. That's I definitely have sold several online, but my main purpose for writing my book was I guess like you said, I wanted it to be a glorified business card,
right?
Something I would hand to a client in a meeting to kind of automatically position, some kind of be the authority on the topic, so to speak.
Right, and that comes down to that goal. Like, what is it? What is your goal for your brand and your business, and how can this book best serve that? And if you're setting yourself up as an author and you want to make a living from writing books, then at some point you got to charge people for the book.
Right.
But if your goal is, I want to use this book to establish myself as a credible authority on a topic, and I want to build my brand and establish my voice in the world, then you've got a lot more flexibility, and giving your book away may not be a bad idea. I mean, in fact, I encourage people to do that. There's a very low overhead for actually generating even a print book. But I mean, it's practically nothing to do an ebook
Right.
or
Yeah.
PDF, and you can send that to as many people as you want, as often as you want. But even with a print book, I mean, Amazon has a service called CreateSpace. It's a publishing on demand service, and with some layout and cover design, you can be available on Amazon, within a couple of days, and you can order books for fairly cheap and stock a bookcase with them just to hand out at events or send to clients or whatever. And they're a great promotional tool, mostly because they do establish you as an authority. Like
Right.
there's something built into us that says, we look at someone who's written a book, and it's even in our vernacular, right? Like that guy wrote the book on that subject, and now you can make that literally true.
Right. Yeah, we wrote the book. Yeah, literally.
Exactly.
And that's something I try to tell a lot of our clients, especially when we're retained for branding or brand positioning, marketing strategy. The thought always comes up to me when, most clients say that they want to be the authority. It's like, well, are you doing speaking gigs? And
Right.
do you have anything written?
Right.
And most of the time the answer is no. And I'm like, okay, well, we need to schedule some speaking opportunities, some speaking things, and we got to get this stuff out of your head and into a book.
Exactly.
But there just seems to be the big hurdle to doing that. I mean, what have you found has been the biggest thing, or is there any secret little tips or something you can give us? I'm checking out the book now. You guys go to Amazon and you just search in 30-Day Author, and Kevin's book comes right up. Available on Kindle also.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, okay.
available on everything. In fact, if you go to kevintumlinson.com/30-day author, all
Okay.
one word, you can find it on practically any platform you like. And right this minute through January 31st this year, I've got it marked down to 99 cents. So
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
in plug.
Yeah. No, that's good though, man. That's a hell of an
Yeah.
offer. I mean, if the listeners aren't willing to spend 99 cents to figure out how to be a better author or become an authority in their marketplace, I don't know how much more we could do for them.
I tell you, it's worthwhile. You were asking about, I guess we want to talk a little about, how to make this an easier process. And the thing is, I give this information away for free. So you don't even necessarily have to buy the book. You're just supporting me when you do. And you've got a nice little thumb-through resource. But the process for writing is really, I hate to say it, but it starts with, put button seat. But I give a formula in the book for how to determine, the length of the book, how to determine how long it needs to be, how to actually set a schedule so that you're writing every day, how to, how many words a day you need to churn out in order to meet a goal.
Wow. Yeah.
And I call the book 30-Day Author, but the honest truth is you can write a book in any time frame you want using this process. It's just, it really is about setting aside the time. And there's a little bit of discipline involved, but I encourage everyone, if you're an entrepreneur, you should have the discipline of writing every day. If for no other reason than to help organize your thoughts and, sort of reinforce your own brand message to yourself.
Yeah, man, that is such a good point. Whenever I was the first book I wrote, Your Spot on the Mountain, really came out whenever I started training for this Texas Freedom Run, this run across Texas, as if I didn't have enough going on at the time. But
Right.
I found myself alone in my thoughts, running hours a day. And I felt like I needed some place to come back and kind of record those thoughts. And, after a couple months of doing that, I'm like, man, you know what? I think I could kind of reorganize and shift this around and make a book out of this.
Right.
So, yeah, you're right. Just the habit of doing that, to organize. And most of us are scatterbrained as entrepreneurs, right? So,
Right. Well, yeah, we are, because typically entrepreneurs are not locked into one way of thinking. We're used to flexible thinking. And so we have lots of ideas. And the fact of the matter is, there's an adage, and I've had a couple of guests on my show say something along these lines, but, if you have something valuable to share on your topic, it's sort of your responsibility to organize that and get it to them as quickly as possible in the best way possible. And sitting down to write a book, it sounds so intimidating, but I point out to people that every day you're asked to write quite a bit of information, from emails, blog posts, potentially, social media posts, text messages. I mean, we write all the time. We just don't think of it as writing most of the time.
yeah, that's true.
And
Yeah.
all we're really talking about is deciding to be more intentional with that and sitting down and taking those ideas, you can borrow from yourself. I help clients frequently as a copywriter. I've helped clients frequently gather material, content from their websites and blogs and that sort of thing, and we'll rehash that a little and bind it up in a book.
Yeah. And, I know a lot of people, or some people, are even just kind of intimidated with typing. I guess, do you recommend any kind of dictation apps or programs that can help people just talk through their ideas and get them down on paper?
I'm going to give her a plug here. There's an author I know and work with occasionally named Monica Leonel, and she wrote a book about dictation. And I'll try to quickly find that on Amazon so I can tell you what it is. But her process is to use, I think she uses Dragon Naturally Speaking.
Okay.
Or Dragon something. And, that's kind of the go-to software for dictation. And I do kind of mention that in 30-Day Author, but I think that it's not really that's really not my forte. Like, I don't do dictation.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, I found whenever I first started, I thought that I was going to need to dictate a lot more, and it may have been Dragon or something. I downloaded it just so that I could talk, and honestly, I found it extremely exhausting.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, I'm like, okay, well, this is crazy. I can't just talk through all of this. Typing, got a lot better at typing and was able to spit it out that way.
It really, I think it depends on the type of book you're trying to write. I will say this, rather than dictation, one method that I've used with clients, and I've actually done this myself, is using the interview process. Because you can do, you can hop on Skype and you use, something like Ecamm's call recorder is a plugin for Skype that lets you record. And one of the ways that you can kind of get past the hurdles of typing, if you're not a fast typist or whatever, is give someone a few bucks, or if you have someone in your organization that can sit with you and interview you about your topic, get that all down on a recording and then just send that out for transcription, and then it just becomes about editing. And then you can quickly knock out a book in less than 30 days if you do that process.
Yeah.
It has the benefit of someone else contributing. You're basically outsourcing some of the brain power on this and multitasking, really. And if they're guiding you and asking you questions, you can get that information on the page fairly quickly and usually pull out a lot more than you would have intended otherwise.
Right. Well, man, there's just, I still got pages, folks, of stuff that I wanted to talk with Kevin about, so I'm going to have him back on the show. It's just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to content and how to promote this stuff and position yourself as authority. I want you guys to go check out his website, kevintomlinson.com. Get on Amazon, look for 30-Day Author. Kevin, man, I know we got a lot more to cover, but we'll definitely have you back, man. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Hey, no problem. I love being on, and I'm always here. So if anybody wants to chat, just hook up with me online.
Thanks for hanging out with us this week. We'll be back next week with a brand new show for you. Always check out our episodes at thehookradio.com. That's Jason Arsmont. You're listening to The Hook.